All right. Welcome, everybody, to Bridge into Blues. My name's TJ Wheeler, and I want to thank you all for coming out today on this rainy, gloomy day. Perfect day for the blues, right? And we're bridging the blues today. And basically, the blues is the foundation. Before we get to the bridge, we got to get to the foundation first. And this song kind of reflects what I consider the foundation of the blues. It was written by my wife and myself. Her name is Nadine Perry. And I'm TJ Wheeler. Thank you. Because the blues you can bank on. In this old life, a lot of people tell us that we can rely on a lot of things growing up. Yeah, but as reality hits us, the older we get, the less true that seems. But one thing that'll always be with you, for better or for worse, is the blues. So I suggest you make it your friend. Take what could possibly destroy you, turn it inside out, recycle that into a powerful force. The blues, now that you can bank on, that's for sure. Because I just want to spread the news, keep on playing the blues. I love the truth in those songs. With the blues you can't go wrong, 'cause it's the blues you can bank on. It's the blues you can bank on. There's one thing I know that is true, that you can bank on the blues. Yeah. The blues made old son Thomas cry. Kept playing them until the day he died. That old grave digger for the dead said it must have been the devil instead, 'cause it's the blues you can bank on. It's the blues you can bank on. There's one thing I know that is true, you can bank on the blues. I'm just here to say what some of those masters taught me to play. I remember Furry, Booker, Sleepy John too. They told me bring it on home to you, 'cause it's the blues you can bank on. It's the blues you can bank on. One thing I know that is true, you can bank on the blues. I'll bank on it now. Take your time. I gotta say, something's been on my mind, been bothering me a long time. Why those who gave so much more always seem to wind up so damn poor? 'Cause them that got or them that gets, but they ain't had much of nothing yet. I swear that it's a crying shame. Why nobody seems to remember the names when it's the blues you can bank on. Now it's the blues you can bank on. There's one thing I know that is true. You can bank on the blues. It's the blues you can bank on. It's the blues you can bank on. There's one thing I know that is true. You can bank on the You can bank on the bank on the blues you can bank on. Thank you. Thank you much, everybody. Yeah. All right. Brought all kinds of different guitars with me for today. Well, I'm going to get to a lot of them. But this is a little Cremona guitar with a K. This is the one I play at home more than just about anything else. We got a little bit of a heating crisis going on in the studio here, but thanks to my friends and my space heaters, RTD2 right here, and whatever, they're going to help me out. Might have to do a little tuning after each song. But bridging the blues, man, before we start bridging into other things, I think it's really important to look inside of the so-called confines of the blues. 3 chords, only 3 chords. In so many ways, the blues is one of the simplest forms of music you could learn, you could play. But at the same time, to truly be really have your own voice in it and be able to really convey the message of it and the feeling of it and the soul of it. Man, that's another whole thing. That could take, for me, probably several lifetimes, but I'm just going to just do the best I can within this one that I'm working on. But a lot of us, when we go to workshops and things like that, we want to see technique, or we buy guitar magazines and books and all about getting the technique and stuff like that. But technique really only goes so far. The blues is poetry, and some of the finest poets can be perhaps they don't have the most articulate and widest array of words to choose from for whatever reasons, or choose to keep it simple. But it's all about what you feeling, and what you can say, and what you can communicate. And that it's a conversation. And we're going to get to all those points musically and philosophically in the music of the blues during this workshop, because I don't think it's talked about enough and really delved into enough. But first of all, as that song says, the blues you can bank on. That's one thing that you can hold on to for your whole life. And above everything else, what I need to convey to everybody, that the blues is black music. It's a black musical art form, but it also is, as the late August Wilson said, someday into the future, the blues will be looked back on as the chronicles of black history. So when a lot of people weren't paying much attention to what was going on In fact, probably more than anything else, they were trying to oppress and remove that history from history books or just public common knowledge. The blues is a lot of things to a lot of different people, but it's definitely, as August Wilson says, it's the oral history of Black America and the challenges they've had in this country and continue to have. So, uh, so we're not just conveying the feelings of ourselves. When to me, when you're really truly playing the blues, you're plugged into something that's much beyond one person. You're plugging into the ancestors are out there, man. They're checking you out, seeing if you're worthy, and see if they will use you as a vehicle to keep that music pouring through you and through your guitar. So I know Mance Lipscomb, one of my favorite country blues players. He, when asked by Les Blank, he was talking about how he doesn't try to play the music; he lets the music play him. And I find that's quite true. I remember early on as a teenager going to a lecture by Transcendental Master of Meditation, and he was basically saying the same thing about meditation. He was saying the mind knows where it wants to go, or that flow of the zone that gets you into that mindset, and you just got to kind of ignore yourself, your mind. You have to kind of ignore it and let it just kind of pass through like water, and trying to control the music. You just kind of, the music knows, and the mind knows, and the meditation knows where it wants to go. We just got to stay out of its way. And, sure, we got to be a good vehicle, we got to make sure we're tuned up. Our spark plugs are all set, and engine and all well oiled and ready for action. So, but we're going to talk about, once we really explore that realm of the blues, we're going to talk about how we bridge that into other styles of music that are very much rooted in the blues. Some of them, so many of them, connected to the African diaspora, right? The music that came from Africa. Philosophically, we got to keep getting back to the philosophical side of music and kind of set the ego aside and realize we're part of a continuum, and plug that into, if yourself is only like a battery. The battery in a car is only going to last for about 50 miles, especially if you got the lights on. You'll be lucky if you get 50 miles out of it. It's going to go dead, no matter how good an engine or tires and make of the car or whatever. It's going to go dead unless that battery is hooked up to a greater power, an alternator, right? I don't even know if those cars have those things anymore. but you gotta. It's like we can't just run off our own battery to play the blues. You got to plug into the source. So let's analyze some of the styles. And bridging the blues is also about, as far as the guitar goes, being able to orchestrate the guitar. I mean, man, I love people that just do a little strumming, man. There's something beautiful about that. Something beautiful about that, and a lot of great music. But man, when the blues pickers, from Blind Lemon Jefferson to Blind Blake to Mance Lipscomb, the Son House, and let alone Lightning Hopkins, Booker White, some of the other people I mentioned in that first song, Sleepy John Estes, Furry Lewis, so many of them grabbed a hold of the guitar. Ed Memphis Minnie and many others, Ada Baker, Elizabeth God. We're going to get to a lot of them and the styles. But man, when I grew up as a teenager, it was the Beatles, it was the Rolling Stones, all the British invasion of white blues players, ironically introducing America to much, at least white America, to black music. How crazy is that? But we're gonna get to a lot of those. But let's get down to some basic forms, right? To trance out, a real transcendental blues to me, it's just a one chord, just one chord. And this, I'm just gonna stay in the key of E, the people's key of the blues. And this approach, many of the old time pickers, I remember reading in a guitar instruction book how this style was called monotonic. But some of the old players, they called it dead thumb, because you're taking either your thumb on your left hand, or you could use your palm of your hand on your right hand to hit your bass notes, and it's just a solid, steady beat, like a heartbeat. And like I said, man, if you ain't playing from your heart, you're not playing blues in the first place, right? So it's significant that that's the heartbeat. But when you mute that bass string, you're going to go from a really loud string that could overpower and prevent the real nice nuances that you'll be able to get with the rest of the strings. So you don't want it to be too loud. Plus, you don't have a bass player. You're playing solo guitar. If you, instead of just playing the bass note and letting it ring, if you're palming it or dead thumbing it, you've just automatically, basically, lowered it an octave. So here's a little two trains running. A guy named Muddy Waters called it Rolling Stone. From what I understand, there were some young fellows from England that got influenced by that title, decided to call their band that. But that hypnotic, just vamping. That heater's working all right. Working so it's bending my tuning strings here. That's all right. So you're just vamping on the sixth string. This is a 7-string guitar, but probably most of you play 6-string, so just ignore that 7th string, all right? So I'm hitting the bass note, and then I'm hitting the 3rd fret of the 6th string, the G note, and then hitting the octave E on the 2nd fret of the 4th string. And then I'm just playing a little groove riff on the top. All right, on the 3rd and 2nd string, down to the 4th. Yeah, that's right. You take your guitars out. got to stop because I just remembering Booker White. If I was playing at that tempo, not for probably Booker wouldn't have said anything, but of all of his old cronies sitting next to him outside of his house on Mosby Street with a line of chairs, just leaning up against a little convenience store building, that was Booker's office. And if I started something at that tempo, I'm sure this one guy would appear. He always seemed to appear. And he'd come up to me and go, "Man, I didn't ask for a shuffle. I didn't ask for no rock and roll. I wanted a slow blues." And so, yeah, there's a whole art form right there too, man. Playing the slow blues, but this ain't a real slow song. But I always try to keep that in my mind. Slow down and find the groove. And if you even slow down a fraction, chances are that groove's going to be a little deeper, a little more nuanced. Well, there's two trains running, running my door. One's about midnight, one about the dawn. Out for the break of day, oh, for the break of day. Now, hey, well, I wish I was a fox squirrel swinging from tree to tree. Well, I take all them fox squirrels, have a chasing after me, have a chasing after me. Sure enough, sure enough I would, sure enough I would. Now get your never happen. Get your milk now from a cow. Yeah, take your love from a highbrow. I said, show you how. Show you how. Sure enough, sure enough, so. They were playing bass, rhythm, and melody, or fills. And the fills are very, very, very important between the lyrics. Or if they were just playing instrumentally, they were playing the melody too, and then soloing and improvising on top of that too. And that led into jazz guitar too. But so much of the music of America is based on the foundation of the blues, whether it's country and western or bluegrass, it's just gospel music, spirituals, and a book called The Blues People. I read many years ago, had very, very convincing philosophy saying that blues itself was the remnants of gospel music or the spiritual music of Africa that griots played and other people played. And so though our country, the old myth of the pilgrims coming here for religious freedom and things like that, it's of course so ironic that though they supposedly came here for religious freedom, that as soon as they got here, they started restricting other people's religious freedom, from Native Americans to the people they were enslaving from Africa, because it made them, basically it made them feel better, because it started another myth that Africa was this deep, dark place of savages and heathens. Heathens meaning that anybody that's not a Christian had to be a heathen, right? No matter where they were in the world. So that slavery, even though they had to be enslaved during this life, at least their afterlife would be in heaven. Of course, the segregated part of heaven, you know. We can't have integration going on here. Anyhow, his in the book, he's really saying that the blues music, supposedly with a lot of roots to the West African religion, the Yoruba religion, with the theory of the crossroads and a lot of the symbolism of cross and snakes and stuff like that, that seemed like blasphemy to Christians, were actually more philosophical in nature. That's what they symbolized, like going to across meant about the crossroads, that there's choices you got to make in life, you know. And the snake, opposed to the snake in Adam and Eve, the snake was a sign of fertility. All right. So, you know, but that religion, those religions weren't allowed, so they had to go underground. They never dissolved, they never disappeared, they just had to go underground. Of course, in the Catholic faith, in Catholicism, that was easier to do, because all these deities you could have as represented by all the various saints in Catholicism, right? So in Haiti, that's still perpetuated. In New Orleans, in different parts of the country, but especially New Orleans, that was integral. And so they started masking their faith of Africa and the music and the philosophy through the blues. All right. So a lot of the things you hear about, you know. Just a woman told my mom the day I was born, you got a poor child coming, he'll be a son of a gun. He'll take all your pretty women, grab them by the hand, then the whole world gonna know about the hoochie coochie man, because I'm here. The whole world know I'm here. Now the hoochie coochie man, everybody know I am. Well, I got a black cat bone, I got a mojo too, I got the Johnny the Conqueror. I'm gonna with you, gonna take all your pretty women, make a jump and shout. The whole world gonna know what it's all about, because I'm here. Everybody know I'm here. Lord, just a hoochie coochie man. Everybody knows I'm here. On the 7th hour, on the 7th day, on the 7th month, the 7 doctors say I was born for good luck. Wait and see. I got $500. Don't you mess with me because I'm here. Everybody know I'm here. Lord, just a hoochie coochie man. Everybody know I'm here. Yeah, thank you. Hooch Scooch Man. Old song by Willie Dixon and Muddy Waters, of course. But so, growing up as a teenager, unfortunately, I was lucky enough by the time I was 14, I'd only been playing guitar for about 2 years. People revealed to me what had been concealed to me and the rest of America. That what I was listening to, the Rolling Stones, the Animals, the Beatles, this was black music in whiteface. Of course, the artists grew, and I'm not putting down the artists, I'm just saying that it was part of the continuum, and it's very sad and very tragic that we had to be turned on to our own nation's music simply but from basically just post-teenage musicians that learned so much, if not most of what they got from the artists that I'm playing today and beyond. And so it's just amazing. So, and of course, when I was like 12 years old and listening to the Beatles, I might have thought, well, maybe the reason why they're not having people like Muddy Waters or Howlin' Wolf is because, man, they're really, really old. They're really ancient. Maybe they're past their prime. They must be like getting near 40 years old, right? You know? Oh, man, we want somebody young up there, Somebody that looks like us, too. Why not, And so... anyhow, so that shows you a little bit of the spirituality, the mojo, all these terms that we speaking of mojo, the British co-opted that too. Even Austin Powers, even though he lost his mojo, but they got the whole thing. They got the songs. They got the window dressing. All the superficiality that's on the top, but they didn't look any deeper than that. So many of us, myself included. So when it was revealed to me that this music was black music, and then it started me on that search for going back further and further and tracing the music back. Okay, so that was the dead thumb technique. But before we leave that totally, I want to show you what we need to do is once you got that steady 4 on the floor, and you can do like a double note, and then you create like a rhythmic comping riff. That's all. Just something to play on top of, right? To sing on top of, and to play fills around or just solo. So how do we play those little fills and stuff like that while keeping the chords together too? Well, you really have to be able to really use all your fingers. Well, for you six-string players, you can still have access, like when you're playing an F, to roll across the string and play that first fret on the sixth string. That's the thing I miss more about playing a six-string guitar than anything else, being able to do that. Uh, but then you play the chord or part of the chord or just that riff. All right, and what we're doing there is when I'm saying solo guitar, that's almost really an oxymoron, because this is not really solo guitar, even though it's just one person up here, because the music is reflecting a dialogue going on the instrument. It's usually called call and response, but I like to call it conversational. And this is a very, very, very important theme to me, in blues and jazz, no matter what instrument you're playing, and especially vocalists. We'll get into that more as we go on. But so once what is that dialogue? Okay, well, a call, it could be referenced as call and response, or it could be described as a question and an answer. And have you ever noticed that when you ask a question, how your voice trails up? Have you ever noticed when you ask a question? No, I never noticed that. And when you answer the question, a lot of times you're mimicking the tonality and the phrasing of the question. This is in conversation. Have you ever noticed that? No, I never noticed that. Except you're answering it and your voice trails down. So that's what's happening in between those little those groove riffs. And so my index finger and my second finger and my thumb are concentrated more on the bottom of the chord and the the middle harmonies. And then on the first first three strings, with occasionally diving down into the fourth string or even lower, but mostly on the top three strings, that's where I'm throwing in the fills or the soloing. And it's just not one question and one answer. It's a real dialogue. In a 12-bar form, for instance, it's like usually two questions, two answers, and then some resolvement. But, it's just not like a pleasant conversation. It can be downright testy. It can be angry. It can be funny. It can be whatever you want to make it. You want to have some feelings in there. You want to add those touches of emotion. And if not, it's just notes, man. It's just notes without intent. Intent. We have a lawyer in the house here, my friend John Sachs. Better look out, man. All right, public defender number one or public enemy number one. I can't remember which. Close enough. And he knows the power of intent. That can be the difference between third-degree murder and first-degree murder, right, John? Back me up now. Come on now. Oh yeah. Talk to me. All right, yeah. I mean, if you just unload your pistol in somebody because you were like trying to defend yourself, or you were enraged, by some kind of event, and and you just the next thing you knew, you're like, wow, what did I just do? I just put 6 bullets in that person. All right, but if you stop and you don't drop the gun and realize what you did. No, you hold the gun and you reload and shoot 6 more bullets. Right? You intended to do that. All right. So the intent behind the note has to mean everything. Another thing in my wife's sojourn of a journeyman, jazz man, blues man extraordinaire. Said the other day when we was talking about B.B. King, he was saying like, "Hey man, you gotta listen to this guy. This guy, man, plays like his life counts on. His life is counting on every note that he plays, and that's the kind of intensity that you got to go. You got to layer it. You got to build up to it. You tension and release. So a little tension in that conversation is good, but there's got to be a release. And then we'll just let it roll a little bit. Just let it relax. When you get to the 4, repetition, right? Repetition. You cannot create a groove if you do not have any repetition, because a groove is not a musical term originally. It's a carpenter's term, all right? And you dig that groove. You don't do it with an axe handle. No, you don't do it with a hatchet. You do it with carving tools, but it creates repetition. But you don't want to create so much repetition that that groove turns into a rut. So you want to vary it. So on the slow blues, though, slow it down. Get that groove riff, and then just try doing the call and response. Or another more clear-cut call and response would be like, that's a clear question. And then the resolvement. Okay, now we're going to move on. I tell you this, one of the benefits of being in this 21st century, of course it's a yin and a yang type of thing, is having access to so many more learning tools and resources, many of them free on YouTube or other venues, other mediums. So you could put in the search engine to a YouTube and look for other examples of what I'm talking about on any of these topics that we're covering today. All right, I got to speed up now because we got so much to do. Okay, so now we're going to go to alternating bass. Instead of just that dead thumb, now we're going to play basically all these techniques in a lot of ways are emulating piano players, pianists, and careful now. And these techniques, man, you know, let's face it, guitar players are extremely, a lot of times, jealous of what a piano player can do. 10 fingers and just being able to get through all those notes, just all laid out right in front of them. And so we try to steal as many of those techniques as possible. And so the ragtime of Scott Joplin and Blind Boone and other of those early 20th century players with that ragtime beat. So, man, you can get into some really, really wonderful, intricate stuff. You listen to Reverend Gary Davis, you listen to Blind Blake, you're going to hear just some tremendous picking. Now, I heard this fairly early on because on TV there was a guy named Chet Atkins, and he's playing that. Yeah, and Merle Travis, he got that from. But the guy that taught Merle Travis was a neighbor of his, and that neighbor learned his stuff from a guy named Arthur Schultz, who was a black guitar player. And you don't hear, you didn't hear that name a lot growing up, Arthur Schultz, but you certainly heard a lot about Chet Atkins and Merle Travis. Unfortunately, probably during all those years, I never heard any reference to where the black roots of that music. So then I started learning some Mississippi John Hurt, as well as Elizabeth Cotton. And with now this, opposed to the dead thumb approach, is more challenging. In fact, I had a really hard time learning this, and it really helped for me to be able to compartmentalize, separate what my thumb was doing with what my other fingers were doing as far as pick and melody. It really helped to separate the two and not get them confused by actually reading tab. And it was a Stephen Grossman book that I got when I was 18. And songs like My Creole Belle by Mississippi John Hurt. And Stephen broke it into different things. Like so, at first, he was just taking the C chord, or this is what I would like you guys to do at home if you're not experienced on this style, is just take the C chord and play your fifth string. You play the root, and then play your E note on the fourth string. That's your third. Usually in this ragtime style, you're usually going from the one to possibly the third, and then to the interval of the fifth, which in this case would be G. And that way, in that case, you gotta move your finger, just like I was saying before. You gotta move your finger out of position sometimes to create a riff, or in this case, we're moving our finger out of position but going right back to it in order to play the bass line. Now that might sound like really basic, but it's like no matter what level of guitar player you are, if you want to learn, keep learning. You got to be willing to like strip yourself of your ego and strip yourself of thinking you're a hot shot, and just like be able to go back to the foundation. Be able to go back to the foundation and play something that is like, in a way, your ego would tell you it's really beneath you. But sometimes you just got to go back to the foundation and build back up again, and then you'd be surprised with what you come up with. In this case, we're coming up with alternating bass. Okay, now to add the melody, I would just add at first. Once you get that bass line going, that's probably a little too fast. And then just add the open E sound. And then once you got that, add another note. But I'm not using any syncopation. I'm doing it right at 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right on. But then the next thing, which takes a little while, is playing the melody notes in between some of the notes, some of the melody notes or the grace notes in between the bass line. And it can be just still the basic melody, but instead of going, we're going. The first three notes were dead on. Okay. First two outside of the thumb. And then before I go back to the fourth string with my thumb, I'm hitting the high E, and then I'm laying down the thumb. And the melody starts on the second note. Get it? Just keep doing that over and over. There's just that little part. So remember, the melody starts on the second note. And then if that works out okay, then go to your F chord with your thumb wrapped around the sixth string on the first fret. I can't do that. Hey, could you get my little Gibson out? I should be playing on a six-string guitar, at least for some of this stuff. But then you're going. And then the bass line, usually on F chord, is it's just playing an octave. The F, low F on the sixth string, to the medium, a little higher, octave higher, on the fourth string, third fret. And then what I started doing afterwards, I was adding a little bit of rolls. You know, I usually try to save the rolls for dinner, but sometimes it's good to put. Oh, never mind. And there's all kinds of different ways to do rolls. Mine's very organic, just what I came up with. I usually and a choice of fingering. Some guitars, just like Etta Baker and Doc Watson and Reverend Gary Davis, only use two fingers, I believe. I think that's true about Etta Baker too, but definitely Doc and Reverend Gary Davis. How they did it, I'm not sure. But I usually use three fingers, two for the melodies and stuff like that. And I'll usually I'll let my third finger play a lot of the key notes. And I'll let, after I hit the main note, the high E, then I'll let it roll over to the second string. And then I'll come in with my index finger on the open third. You could just do that without any thumb at all. So, anyhow, this is just like to give you an overview. I don't expect anybody to walk out of here playing all this stuff right away. And if you do, then I definitely want to book some lessons with you to teach me. All right. So that's alternating bass, and you can do it in all different keys, but major keys especially lends itself to it because you like those open strings. So then I started thinking, wow, man, those are really two great things that piano players do, that alternating bass line as well as just that steady, monotonic, dead thumb approach. But then I started thinking, what are some other bass lines that are really cool? And in New Orleans, the tuba, a lot of times in the brass bands, it's actually usually a sousaphone, because you can wear those and march in the streets. And the bass line, opposed to doing a dead thumb or that kind of beat, it's usually more often than not, in my not so humble opinion, it's usually like a one, third, and the five, the intervals of the a major chord, right? So, okay, I think it's time for me to play that Gibson because I'm going to get on that seventh string and nobody else is going to be able to do it. Yeah, let's see. I'll just put this down. Hopefully it won't cook too much.
I'll grab that.
Oh, right. It's still plugged in because
but you'll be using the
I'll come back to it.
pedal.
Oh,
Stop
what?
on the pedal.
What's that?
Oh, sorry.
That's
You
all.
can stop on the pedal.
Oh,
Turn off.
what one? Okay. This is my buddy here, Mark, man. Yeah, from Gary's Guitars. Yeah. Gary and him, man, they've been at it together now for what, about 30 years?
30-something.
30-something. Yeah. This is a little Gibson that I have for sale over at, for a little product placement, you know. This is a beautiful little Gibson. Oh, man. Maybe I won't sell it. All right. I just love this guitar. It just got they did some nice work to it, too. All right. Okay. I'm just orienting myself back to six strings. I call that playing second line guitar. Yes.
The music stand is hiding your left hand.
Oh, the music stand is hiding my left hand. Hey, man, you only paid $15, man. You know, I gotta walk away holding a couple of secrets here, man. You know, how am I gonna get you to come back for a lesson, man? If I give everything to you, $15, that's not even cab fare. All right. Oh, I'm glad you pointed that out. All right, so this is one of my favorite chords, my fingerings, voicings for it, a good old G13th, you know. But anyhow, G13th, that could take a long time to explain. But the bass line I'm doing is my index finger on the third finger of the sixth string. And well, like I said, I'm just playing on for the starting chord G. I'm just using the two bass strings, the G and the A string, G note, and then to the B, the second fret of the A string, and then the D note on the fifth string, which is on the fifth fret. Well, I'm going to New Orleans, I'm gonna go to Mardi Gras. And then I move over and do the same riff, but now on the fifth and the fourth string. Well, I'm going to New Orleans, you're gonna go to Mardi Gras. And then to get to the 5, I'm going to stay on. Well, you have different choices. If you take like a C7th chord and move it up a whole step, a classic C7, first position, and then if you just, then your first 2 notes of that now D7th is your D and your 3rd. But opposed to going up to the 7th fret, you could go you could get that A note on your 2nd fret of your G string. Whatever you prefer. I guess I would probably more likely use the 7th fret because it sounds a little bassier. So I would just use my pinky. I know I've met a lot of players that don't hardly ever use their pinky. But when you're orchestrating the guitar bed, you need to use every appendage you can muster to its maximum ability. So you need to use that pinky a lot. So you might have to kind of build up your pinky power. All right, pinky power. All right. And then you just add the G chord. If I play the G13th, and sometimes I like the sound of the open string, so I'm just using, I'm adding the you hear me talking in numbers, so those people that aren't familiar with the number system, it would take the whole 75 minutes of this thing to explain. But today, musicians, more often than not, a lot of us talk to each other in numbers and opposed to letters. So I would look up the interval system on the internet, or sometimes it's called the Nashville system too. And it really helps with being able to me, it simplifies music a lot. So that's all I'm going to say about that right now. Because once I get started, I just can't stop talking about my numbers. But so 1, 3, 5, 1, 3. Or you can go up to this D, where you're taking your ring finger, as Mississippi Fred McDowell would like to pronounce it, ring finger, on the 7th fret, and just play like the 4th, 3rd, and the 2nd string, and then your index finger is playing the 5th string on the 5th fret, and then going over to get the 3rd on the 4th string on the 4th fret. Now, see, isn't it wonderful that you're going to be able to review all this stuff on YouTube, man? Thanks to my friend Scott here, and thanks to my friend Dave, who is they're both filming and doing audio here, recording. That's a wonderful thing. So I'm just going to go through that kind of slow. I'm doing that little roll there. I'm gonna, no matter what the bass line is, when it's time to roll, I roll. which gives kind of a Spanish feel too, Caribbean feel. All right. So that's the second line approach to finger picking. All right, and I've heard a couple of other fellas, ladies, doing that kind of finger picking, but I haven't seen too many. Thank you so much. How much do we want for this guitar, anyhow?
Today for you,
For me.
$399.99.
$399.99. Wow, 300,099.
1933
1933.
Gibson LO.
L-O. L, the O, anyhow. All right. I love it, all right. Oh, man, I hate to see that go. All right. And so, okay, could I get my L, what, I called it an L5, but it's not. I lost that.
Oh, yeah.
I lost that in the last oppression. Oh, thank you, sir. All right. Okay. All right. I'll stomp it. Oops. This amp went out again for some reason. Not that it matters that much. Thank you. Oh.
Ooh, that's louder. That's the chorus.
Yeah, there we go. I'm back. I am back, baby. All right. And for the last style example of this particular style, how are we doing for time, by the way?
You are. It's 2:49.
Oh, good. All right. All right. Not doing too bad. All right. This next style is
3:49.
3:49. Oh, I'm doing bad. I am doing really bad. All right. Oh, well. Go back to 2:49, yes. All right. Well, I might just keep swinging. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. Oh, yeah, we got to go to my telly, too. All right. Another thing that I heard piano players do that I was really envious of is with their left hand doing a walking bass line, but not just doing a little comping with their right hand, but playing the full melody or just soloing away. And of course, some of the examples of that, or a lot of players do it. But of course, the great Art Tatum and Oscar Peterson come to mind right away. But it's a lot of piano players do it. But I hadn't heard too many guitar players do it. I don't think I'd heard any when I started out. But I still feel like I'm definitely at a very beginning embryonic state of working on this. But that is getting that bass line, walking bass line going. And I think I'll just start off doing a Duke Ellington C-Jam blues. Anybody want to know what key that's in? Okay, all right, you got that? All right, C, all right. And Okay. Of course. Oh no, I'm gonna do it. Let's see. I'll do it in. Yeah, I'll change keys. Yeah, C jam. Let's do C jam blues in G. Okay. That way I can do it easier on six strings. Although I could do it up here too, but we'll do it on that first position, basically second position. I'm just taking basically G major chord, and the first thing to kind of develop is just like I'm doing a 12 bar blues, but I'm just going to use, to begin with, I'm just going to use the straight 1, 4, 5. With in jazz blues, there's a fair amount of substitutions you can use. Flat 5 changes, and you can walk down to the 6th, then go a minor 2, minor 5, then 1, 6, 2, 5. See, those numbers really come in handy. So you check out those pages I suggested to learn the number system. But we're just gonna. Nothing fancy. Just really root-oriented stuff. And then just maybe try playing just before you start playing the melodies and stuff like that. Just try playing the rest of the chord with these two fingers. All right, and you'll find that when you change your bass line from over the G chord to the C chord to the D chord, that you might have to change. You might have to alter the fingering of the chord that you're doing on the top strings. It's the same notes, but you might have to use slightly different fingering. Like, and then I'm going to use a C ninth, and then two of my notes are right there. And then I'm back to this position. Basically, it's like an F chord. First position F chord on the top 4 strings, but I'm using it on the 3rd fret. Same, just moving it up. But I'm altering the fingering a little bit so I can have my index finger. I need that index finger on my bass notes. I'm going down there. This is Duke's Place, C Jam Blues, in G. G Jam Blues. let's all go on down to Duke's place. The hippest cats are down at Duke's place. So let's all head on down to Duke's place. All right, so there's some walking bass that you can learn. So that's going to kind of be our introduction to bridging the blues into jazz. Bridging the blues into there's many styles of blues, and a lot of people that especially seems like the people that really like rock blues, really rocking out blues, don't seem to be able to get into jazz blues. Maybe it's too introverted. I don't know, but I sure love it. And then you can now, but then how do we nuance and massage a blues line into a jazz song? All right. Well, for one thing, you can use any of those bass patterns that I did, but that walking bass is really nice. Or, but it's not something you have to do. One scale that I don't know the name of this scale. Somebody I'd been playing those notes for a long time, but I was doing a class on Bainbridge Island near Seattle, and one of the students said, "Well, that's called the jazz blues scale." Okay, and that includes like the blues scale itself. Okay. Always good to define the fundamentals before you start going away from it. Of course, the blues scale itself usually is the one. Once again, using those numbers. All right, the 1, the flat third, the 4, quite often the flat 5, the natural 5, and then the flat 7. And then the 1. When I say flat 7, I went for at least 20 years thinking that a 7th chord was. Once I started playing the major scale, I mean the way I played the major scale on my second guitar lesson, it never really dawned on me that I was playing a F sharp in the key of G. Not a dominant 7, not a F note, which is a flat 7. But a dominant chord, a dominant 7th is more the what should be called. But a lot of the composers of the Great American Songbook, as well as some country western musicians and singer-songwriters and stuff like that, many other genres really use the notes of the major third melodically, as well as the 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I said I wasn't going to say too much about the numbers. I lied. And I'm just going to add that it's, of course, based on the major scale. And so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in the key of G, that 6 is E. And the natural third is B. And the natural 7th is F sharp, because it's only a half step away from the root, the octave. So you have to take that into account. If the composer is writing a song, see. Okay, that's Our Love Is Here to Stay. And you see, I'm using all those natural thirds, the 6, and the major 7th in the melody. But you could always like bend the string up, and that way it adds a little bit from the half step low. Bend it up, because that adds a real nice bluesy nuance instead of. Bend up to it. Yeah, you can get carried away a little bit, but let's go back to in the key of G, we'll do "Lady Be Good." Yeah. I'm using that natural third. I'm using the 6. What I find, even if I was going to do I'll just use an example of a straight blues. Oh, and the 2, yeah, the 2 or the 9th, the sound of the 9th is very common in West Coast blues, like T-Bone Walker and of course T-Bone Walker was a heavy influence of B.B. King. So like in a blues, more traditional blues, urban blues might go, or like Chicago or something like that. That might be the introduction to a slow blues in G. But B.B. King a lot of times, or a West Coast blues player, they'll play both the flat third. Yeah, they'll play both the flat third and the natural third. and then the sixth, and then the octave, and then the ninth, and then bend that ninth up to where you get the flat third. Once again, I'm going. When I'm hitting that six, the sixth interval E again, I'm going up to, I'm bending it down. Whether you bend the string, whatever direction you're bending, it's the sound's going to go up. And then sort of course, the nice thing about a blues scale is if you just play the blues scale, there's like no way you can hit a wrong note on a blues. It's all about. That doesn't mean you're saying anything, but you won't hit a wrong note. But you have to add the intent. You have to add the feeling to it, to get it to be the blues. But to play a jazzy blues, you still have to add all that emotional intent. But it's a little bit more dangerous because you can add more notes, but they don't have that safety quality of the blues scale. You can get yourself in some deep trouble, man, and play your way right out of the key. But that's okay. You just gotta keep experimenting. Repetition, yeah. You gotta have it. It doesn't sound hard necessarily, but when I'm repeating a riff on the top end of the guitar, but I'm changing the bass line, I'm going from the 1 to the 4. It can be a little tricky just repeating it, but it's fun. It's fun, and you just practice it nice and slow, and then you just gradually add the syncopation. Blue Monk was the first song I did with a walking bass. So it just is like I played some of those early styles of my walking bass and riffing and solo and stuff like that for a guitar player that I've known since I was 14, a guy named Robin Coots in Seattle, Washington, excellent bebop, all-around jazz guitar player. I always hunt him down whenever I'm home to get him to teach me something new. But I was playing some of that stuff for him, and he looks at me and goes, "You have entirely too much time on your hands," you know, because it does take a little time. Lady be good. So anyhow, that there goes various different types of bridge into blues, from really searching out your own soul, getting your own voice in there, and to expanding once you really have done the interior work of the blues, which you never get done. You never ever get done with, because it's the blues is it's everything. But once you've had a healthy amount of time put into all the nooks and crevices of getting in and out of the blues progression and 12 bar, then you can add some of those other chords, walking down to the 6, G, back to the 4. Instead of just sitting on a 4 chord for 2 measures, the second measure you could throw in a C sharp diminished, or then walk that 1 chord down to the 6, like a G9, to the E9, and then instead of just a D7, which is nothing wrong with that, but sometimes you might want to go A minor. See, A minor 7th and D 9th are like kissing cousins, right? And one other, a quick little tip, which is another nice thing. It's not really like a bass line. It's just like a little chord anchor that Lenny Bros showed me back in the mid 70s, and I'm still working on this lesson, trying to digest the 1 or 2 lessons that he gave me. And that's using a little rootless, not ruthless, but rootless, little anchor. I call them anchors. Anchors away, you know. In the key of G, that you're taking these 2 fingers here. That's what I use, and I'm playing only the 3rd and the flat 7. that leaves my other fingers and the other strings. You wind up having to use your pinky a lot in this style, as well as pull-offs, and even like using your. This is my capo, by the way. They're on sale at Gary's Guitar. It's really cheap this weekend, Christmas special. But I use my capo here, and I play it diagonally, so I can hit the third, but then this part of my finger can play the flat 7. And then you just move that up, just like you would, like any other chord, move it up to the 4, to the C. Now that's just one usage, though. That's why I'm still like beating my head against the wall, trying to use this to the full extent. The cool thing about this it's a magical little thing, is that if I'm in G and I'm using the 3rd and the flat 7, these 2 fingers on the index finger on the fifth string on the 2nd fret, my 2nd finger on the 3rd fret of the 4th string. Okay, so that's my anchor for a G. But if I lower it a half step, I could use it. One would think it's a G flat, right? And it can be, but just like a diminished chord, as you go up every 3 steps, how the magic of the diminished chords, they realign themselves, so you don't have to change your fingering. Well, without changing my fingering, if I go down a half step, then they reverse. The 2 notes reverse the roles that they're playing. All right? I saw a movie like that one time. It was pretty interesting, But anyhow, so we go from the G. If we go down a half step, now we're playing basically a C7th, an implied C7th, or a G flat. We have our choice how we want to use it. Just when you thought we were done, we're not. If you move it up a half step, it becomes the 5 chord. So within 3 frets, you have the anchors for a whole 12 bar blues. So that's a real good little mojo for you guys to learn, and but then, like I said, you could still use it as a flat, a G flat, or a G sharp instead of the 4 chord and the 5 chord. So if we are doing now that was just using three chords. If we're going to do a jazz blues like I just showed you, we're walking down to the six and then a minor two, to the five, to the 1 6 2 5 turnaround. Let's do that in C. So now I'm on, I'm still on the fifth and fourth string, but I'm on the seventh and eighth fret. And then just sit, instead of sitting on the C, before I go to the four, we're going to walk down. But now we're going to use the same two notes, the same little anchor, but now we're going to use it as a series of flat notes, right? From like C to B, B flat to A. And then, to break things up from using those little anchors, you can throw in those walking basses or whatever you feel like doing. Here's a song called Sweet Georgia Brown, where I'm doing, I go back and forth from using it in going up to the fourth, to the fifth, to also including half steps. And then I go out of it just for a second to do the D minor to G, D minor to A or something. And then I do a series of half steps down from F. And then back to going in fourths. So have fun with that. Just try it starting on the D chord and just go through. And remember that outside of a couple of little places, almost entirely you're just using these little anchors. It's G, down again for C, down again for a fourth above that, F, I went down a couple of steps, I used it as an A, back to D, stepping out of that little anchor just for a moment or two to do the D minor to A7, D minor to A7, then chromatically down from F, and then back to the fourths. second line. Dead thumb. Thank you, Mr. Basie. Yeah, there we go. So that last song, I did all those different patterns that I showed you today. At one time or another, I used the dead thumb. Then I did ragtime style alternating bass, and then just for the hell of it, I threw in that little triad, New Orleans triad, and I called second line playing, and then back to the anchors or the walking bass. Yeah, did I throw in walking bass? Well, you can't. Anyhow, let's see. I'll take a couple of minutes here. What do you have for time now?
It's 4. What time is it now?
4:29.
4:29.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'll just take a short pause for the cause, and then I'm going to show you in the concert portion. I'm going to show you the diddly bow, the one-string slide guitar, and my National Steel, as well as my 1953 Fender Telecaster. All right, so we'll just take a few minutes off. Let's have a nice hand for my friends with Gary's guitar. And Dave will be here. What's the name of your company again? Sonic?
Sonic Frame Recording. Sonic Frame Recording.
Sonic Frame Recording. Sonic Frame Recording. All right. Well, the Sonics were a big influence to me. This garage band from Seattle. Yeah. Legends. Take about 5 minutes off and I'll be right back. Thank you very much, everybody.